Yo, Top Billin. What up, man? We got a special treat for you today. Going back, still on the theme of Georgia versus Florida. This time I'm going to do what is called a working roster debate. Now, you're going to have some people out there say Georgia has a far better roster than Florida. And overall, I find that to be true if you're going to take in recruiting rankings, hype, and stuff like that. No doubt about it. I think Georgia has the very best roster in all of college football. But guess what? None of that shit matters but exactly what you do on that field. So I have what is called a working roster, meaning like your first 22 players that play, maybe some of the guys after that, but pretty much anybody who puts up production, not anybody who's just hyped up and you know that if their talent level is reached, then they probably will become better than the next man. But if they have not reached that talent level yet, it does not matter. So we're only going to go by a working roster. And I got my boy VTW on here. He's going to be representing the Georgia Bulldogs. I'm going to be representing the Florida Gators because I think the Florida Gators have, if not just as good as working roster as Georgia, maybe even slightly better with what returns and obviously the type of production that they can get on both sides of the ball with these guys. So with that being said, VTW, what up, homie?
Hey, what's up, Wes?
Man, my boy VTW, man, if y'all ever see him in the comment section, he's always there riding hard for the cause. He's a top billing soldier. He be in there giving people the business, and he be taking them to task in the comment section. I always enjoy some shit like that. You know me, I be getting on people's asses, paws in the comment section, and VTW be right there with it. So, all right, VTW, just your overall thoughts right now on your Georgia Bulldogs roster and the season in general. Like, what do you think is going to be going on with your dogs?
Well, they got just as good a chance as anybody to win a national championship. I think they got the best roster. Nobody has a better roster than Georgia. I think they're even with just about everybody. Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, LSU. I think Florida probably a year or two away from catching up with them. I don't think they're ready to beat Georgia just yet. For the East just yet. They're talented, though, but I don't think they're as talented as Georgia.
Okay, well, we will find out right here in this damn debate then. How about that, homie? And I will say this. I think Florida can definitely beat the University of Georgia this season. Will they beat them? We don't know, but it has a good a chance as any of beating the University of Georgia and winning the SEC East and the SEC period and being in the playoffs perhaps with a shot at the national championship. I think that much of Florida. I think that much of Georgia too, though, so it's not like it's going to be easy, and it's not like I'm automatically placing Florida above Georgia because I think Georgia has what it takes to win it all. So, but I just think it just so happens to have a very good program right in this division with, to me, a better coaching staff, on-field coaching staff. Not a better overall recruiting conglomerate or anything like that. No, Georgia has that. On-field coaching, I think Florida has that. And I think it has better player development too. So we'll go by each position by position. We'll try to make this as quick as we can there because I know you guys want to comment. You want to comment 5 seconds after you see the title and shit like that. Hashtag Real Men Watch to the end and then comment. All right, VTW. Let's start. Let's save offense. You know what I'm saying? So make these people have to watch this shit. Let's talk about defense. Nobody want to talk about defense, right? So let's go over some of the guys on the interior portion of the defensive line.
Oh, man. Jordan Davis, Trayvon Walker, Devontae Wyatt, Malik Herring. I think that's the strong point for Georgia defensive line, especially last year. I think they were the most consistent group that played well all season long. I don't think Florida got them in that. With what Florida lost from last year, I think Georgia has that. Georgia has the edge on that.
See, really, Florida didn't really lose anybody from the interior. So that's why I think this is a really strong point for Florida's defense as well. If you want to call Jabari Zuniga an interior defensive lineman, I'm cool with that. I am. But he's also one of these guys that you could put him at a 5 technique. He could even stand up like he did sometimes. He could play a lot of different shit. But if we're talking about guys just on the interior, I'm not so sure it's not even. I think a lot of this cat, Zachary Carter, number 17, I mean, this cat is another cat that you can play anywhere from a 3 technique to a 5 technique. He can get after it. Man, I don't have the stats right in front of me, man, but I'm sure he had a few sacks. None of these guys from both of these teams had any outstanding sack numbers. The guys who did were on Florida that departed, like a John Grenard. But from a working roster standpoint, these guys are actually very even right there. Maybe I can pull up the stats right there and we can kind of compare. But also a guy that can play at a shade of Kyrie Campbell. See, a lot of these people aren't going to know about these guys. But if you've actually watched these guys play, to me, I don't see much difference from the Georgia standpoint and the Florida standpoint. A Tadero Slayton, another guy that can play at a shade if necessary. These guys are very versatile. A guy like Marlon Dunlap has played, number 91. He's played a ton of football. He's got a whole bunch of guys on the inside, right? Not a lot of name recognition, but to me, a lot of production and guys who fit Ty Grantham's system there. Yeah. And then you can go in past guys like that I know who will eventually step up. But if we're talking about a working roster, these guys already played. So, man, I wish I could screencast this right here and we can kind of see what's going on right here. Let me see some of the guys that you named. Jordan Davis had a pretty good year, 2.5 sacks. Pretty much the whole team had 2.5 sacks, literally. I think like 7 guys had 2.5 sacks on Georgia. I don't know what to tell you there. You can say that's, I don't know, right? A lot of hype there, but 2.5 sacks across the board with some of these guys. Jordan Davis is a very good player. To me, he's probably the best. Not the most talented, but the best when you consider his size and some of the things he can do. But he had 18 total tackles. Who else did you name? Give me some people.
Malik Herring.
Malik Herring I like a lot. He had 26 tackles. He only had a half a sack.
Trayvon Walker, Devontae Wyatt.
All right, Trayvon Walker had 15 tackles, 2.5 sacks. I think he's going to be a superstar. Maybe from a talent perspective between both teams, he may be the most talented. Like if he got everything out of his body, if they were to develop him to his highest, I think he's a potential number 1 overall pick. But he had 2.5 sacks as a true freshman. You said Devontae Wyatt, he's an animal. He's a damn animal. He had 30 tackles, 1 sack. He can get after it. I like Devontae Wyatt. I like all these guys. But nobody's standing off the pages doing anything spectacular as of yet, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had Julian Rochester. Another guy.
He's still there.
Yeah, he's like 42 years old. He's still there. On the Florida Gators side, man, let me see here. Some of the guys coming back. Let me see. Zach Carter, he had 4.5 sacks. He had more sacks than any of those guys you named. Shoot, who else? I named. Let me see here. And we should have looked first. Marlon Dunlap had a sack himself. Tadero Slayton. These guys just be kind of getting after it or whatever like that. But from a working standpoint, from a working roster standpoint, Zach Carter is bringing back the most production out of all these guys.
Okay,
what you think about that?
With Georgia all at front, you can't measure them by sacks. Though,
well,
right?
But you're talking about a Ty Grantham team, so we know they run this very similar to what Georgia runs. Because there's a reason why those guys are in town, because that's what Georgia has been running, period. So they run very similar systems. Now, they do base off a little bit more of a even front at Florida, but it's with odd front principles. That's why they still play in nose tackle. And Tadero Slayton had 2 sacks himself, and he had 29 tackles.
Okay. I didn't know it was that close as far as production coming back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell you. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Let's go to the outside linebackers. This should be a good point of contention right here. I think both teams have a lot of good youth at the outside linebacker spot. Go ahead.
Ezo Jalard, Nolan Smith, Jermaine Johnson. Adam Anderson, well, I think gonna have a big year if he gets more playing time. Yeah, I think
Walter
Georgia,
Grant.
Yeah, Walter Grant. I think Georgia has the edge there also.
I don't think so. All right, so they have the edge as far as name value, right? A lot of these guys a couple of these guys you just named were 5-star players. But last year, Nolan Smith produced 18 tackles and 2.5 sacks. I can flip that around to a freshman that they had as well by the name of Mahmoud Diabate. Where is he at right here? Mahmoud Diabate had 4.5 sacks, 14 tackles, 43 yards a sack. Don't know what to tell you, buddy. Sometimes it's not all about hype. 2.5 sacks. Mahmoud came with 4.5 sacks. Chris Bogle, another guy who I think is as talented as anybody you just named from Georgia, he had 2.5 sacks. These 2 outside linebackers right here. Maybe 2 4-star guys, not 2 5-star guys, but the production, very similar. And remember, they have Jeremiah Moon coming back for his 16th year on campus. For some odd reason, from a production standpoint, obviously he was the starter. He had 30 tackles, and he had 3 sacks. Yeah, look at you. Why you crying, man? Why you quiet? These guys had to play behind John Grenard. So yeah, Azeez Ojulari had 5.5 sacks. He's to me he's the best right there. Adam Anderson could perhaps be the most talented, but Nolan Smith is the one with the name value. So yeah. So these guys were playing behind somebody and had 9.5 sacks. And of course Jabari Zuniga as well was playing. He was injured, so that's why these guys got to get some playing time. Jabari had 3 sacks in his limited playing time. So it's going to be up to the fans to decide the difference between that right there. But I would call that even. Chris Bogle, Mahmoud Diabate, and then we got to factor in this as well. Brenton Cox going from Georgia to Florida. He could possibly be a starter. So Brenton Cox, they have a kid named Lloyd Summerall, but if we're just talking about working rosters, Mahmoud Diabate, Chris Bogle, Jeremiah Moon, Brenton Cox. Easily as talented as the guys you named, in my opinion. Jermaine Johnson, what did he do? He looked the part getting off the bus, but he had 2.5 sacks.
Yeah, some of that playing time should have went to Adam Anderson, in my opinion.
I think all of it should have went to Adam Anderson. Even Nolan Smith's.
Yeah, he wasn't ready to make an impact last year.
Nope, not at all. And then you had Robert Bill as well. He's since transferred. All right, let's go back off the ball. Give me your inside linebackers.
Tay Crowder, Nakobe Dean.
Nah, people coming back. Of course, Tay Crowder's in the league.
Oh, okay. Nakobe Dean.
Monty Rice.
Oh, yeah, Monty Rice. Forgot about him.
He's the leading tackler. So he had 89 tackles. 3 passes defense. Monty Rice he's that dude to me. I like Monty Rice a lot. Not going to wow you with measurables or athleticism, but just a solid football player. Probably about 5'11", 6 feet tall. So he's not going to look the part. Nakobe Dean's very much like that too, though. Your boy Nakobe Dean had 25 tackles, a couple of passes defensed, forced a fumble. Who else you got? Quay Walker. I like Quay Walker the most. I think he, to me, might be the most talented out of all of them. He had 23 tackles. He also had 2.5 sacks. So he contributed in the sack game. He's good at that. Florida has some guys that do that too off ball, though. That all you riding with? You don't want to mention guys like Nate McBride?
Nah.
You know?
Nah, not
You
Nate.
good? You ain't going to stand on that? All right, so I'm going to counter that with the guy like Ventrell Miller. He had 55 tackles, 3 sacks. You know, they do all that Dr. Pressure shit, so a lot of their guys are blitzing. He had a couple of passes defense. Ventrell Miller is that dude. I like Ventrell Miller. He's going to get a ton of burn this year. He may lead the team in tackles. But then they have this cat, right? Very interesting dude. He may be he's the most athletic between both teams to me. His name is Amari Burney. Mari Burney is almost like a DB, but they play him at linebacker. He could play their inside nickel position. You could say that he plays the star position or whatever like that. Although I'm scared if he was just a regular star that they would have matched up on a wide receiver because he is like 220-something pounds. But this kid can fly. He's going to be a star. Watch out for Mari Burney. 37 tackles, 1 pass defense, 1 interception. I don't think any of the Georgia guys had an interception at off-ball linebacker. Who else? This kid, Cedric Brunson, he would come in. He had 22 tackles. He had a sack. All right, so working guys. Of course, they got guys that they're going to be happy about coming in, like a Wingo and guys like that as well. But just a working roster, you be the judge out there, people. What do you think about that? The Nakobe Dean has a huge name because he was a 5-star. Monty Rice has really good production. But these guys have really good production. Remember, David Reese was the Florida guy who was the leading tackler. He had 88 tackles and a couple of sacks. Of course, he's gone to the NFL. So these guys got to play and have that experience. Oh, and then I forgot about James Houston. This to me sets it off now that I think about it. I would give this to Florida. James Houston is extremely versatile. He had 38 tackles. He had 3.5 sacks himself. Forced a fumble. So, look, their off-ball linebackers are each giving you sacks. Ventrell Miller has 3 sacks. James Houston had 3.5 sacks. Cedric Brunson had 1 sack. Look at him. Quiet. Quiet as a church on Tuesday. Come on, VT Dub. What we doing, baby?
That was the one position, though, that I was
you weren't confident.
The middle linebackers and probably the safeties were the one that I was.
All right, we're going to get there, man. Stop trying to cop a plea. Stop trying to cop a plea. We're going to get there. All right, let's go and do it right now. Let's do safety.
Richard LeCount. We lost J.R. Reed.
Uh-oh.
LeCount and Lewis Seen.
That's it. Lewis Seen didn't do anything. Lewis Seen played in the LSU game. Of course, he played with mop-up duty and stuff like that, too. He had 19 tackles. He had a couple of passes defense. He had an interception. I forget what game he had an interception. It was one of those kind of lower team games or something like that. Lewis Seen, I think, is going to be a very good player. I really do. I like Lewis Seen's skill set a lot. I think he'd be a very good player. Richard LeCount, very, very, very productive player. I don't know if it's kind of he's got to be like the most talented, like untalented player there is or something like that. There's something weird about him, right? He will always get to the spot. He's extremely athletic, but he doesn't always make the play, especially if we're talking about breaking down and tackling in space. He had 61 tackles. If he would have probably procured all the tackles that he had, he probably would have had 100. He probably missed like 40 tackles as well. But he's extremely talented. He could be a borderline first-round pick. I like Richard LeCount. 3 passes defense, 4 interceptions, a couple of forced fumbles, a couple of fumble recoveries. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like he has a lucky rabbit's foot or something like that, but you can't front on the production. Richard LeCount is very good. I think Florida has its own Richard LeCount, though. That would be Sean Davis. Sean Davis and Richard LeCount are very similar. They both could be a single high type safety. Very athletic. They even look like each other out there on the field. I wouldn't be surprised if they were the same exact height, weight, everything like that. But Davis had 51 tackles. He had 3 passes defense. And he had 3 interceptions of his own. He even had a 70-yard interception return. He gets the production as well. But I think what really sets them apart is having all these seniors back. Davis is a senior. Donovan Steiner, he may be like a redshirt junior or senior, something like that. All these guys are upper class, we put it that way. Steiner's a pretty good DB, 30 tackles. He had a sack, I believe. No, he had a sack. He had a pass defense, but he had 4 interceptions. So that's 7 interceptions between a couple of safeties right there. And then the best one of them all to me, I don't know what was going on. I think he may have been suspended or something like that. But to me, he changed the game when he came back, and that's Brad Stewart. You can play him closer to the line of scrimmage. He can become like an extra linebacker almost, a bigger safety. He had 28 tackles, and he had a half sack and had a fumble recovery. But to me, he's the glue that keeps it all together. Florida has better safeties than Georgia, straight up.
Okay, I can agree with that.
All right, now corner, let's go.
That's Georgia right there.
Okay.
Eric Stokes,
DJ
Stokes, Daniels,
pretty good. DJ Daniels,
the
pretty
Brilli.
good. Oh, we're going. Oh, yeah, we do got We got the bully. The bully would be Tyreek Stevenson. Say it.
Tyson Campbell.
Tyson Campbell. So to me, Tyson Campbell brings the entire group down a little bit. This is what we're talking about with player development. Is Tyson Campbell? I saw more from Kyer Elam in his 1 season on campus than I saw from Tyson Campbell in his 2 seasons on campus. I think Kyer Elam is going to have a huge year. I think he has a chance to be as good as Eric Stokes, if not a little bit more technically sound than Eric Stokes. Not the same caliber athletes as any of the 3 guys that we just named. I think all those guys are very good athletes. DJ Daniel, Tyson Campbell, and Eric Stokes. All of them super fast. Oh, and Tyreek Stevenson. Him and Tyreek Stevenson, I think, have a chance. It's funny. I believe that they may have been, like, going. Of course, Georgia wanted Kyer Elam bad, but then they ended up getting Tyreek Stevenson, where it could have been flip-flop there. You know what I mean? But I think Kyer and Tyreek Stevenson, very similar, can have very similar careers. Now, Marco Wilson, at his peak, when we saw him his sophomore year or whatever like that, he was as good as anything that I've seen from Eric Stokes and from Tyson Campbell. Or no, Eric Stokes and DJ Daniel. DJ Daniel only has 1 year of production, but I thought he was very good. You could very much say that he may have had the best year for Georgia. But Marco Wilson is as talented as those guys, and he showed himself to be damn good. But he got that knee injury or whatever like that and came back. His shit was a little iffy, but I think he regains his form there. And, man, Trey Dean is, to me, is like the Tyson Campbell. Trey Dean, I think, is a very good player, but he's playing out of position. Like you see, like I said before, they already have 3 safeties, so they can't afford another one, and that would be his best position to me. Him on the inside is trouble. I think he can be targeted and picked on. He's just not an inside corner. He does not have that type of dexterity, doesn't have the agility to be able to work with a two-way go. On the outside, I think he's better, but he's not going to play over Marco Wilson or Kyer Elam. He could sub in a little bit and rotate with maybe Kyer or Marco, but no. So, man, I'm gonna give that one to Georgia. I'll give that one to Georgia. I'll give that to Georgia, but I don't think it's far. I don't think they're far and away better though. Just like I don't think the safeties are just far and away better on Florida side. I do like Richard LeCount, and I think Lewis Singh can have a really good year, but I still would give it to Florida. This is the reverse of that. I will give it to Georgia. All right, so let's do. What do you think about the overall defense?
Overall defense, I'm gonna go with Georgia, but I thought we were gonna run away with 3 corners, outside linebackers, and interior line. I thought Georgia would run away with that. I didn't think Florida had as much production coming back as they do.
Yeah, Florida have a little bit more production coming back. Thing about it is, it's kind of hard sometimes to give it to somebody when they don't have as much name recognition. Like the Georgia guys do have name. Richard LeCount was a 5-star. All these guys you named, a lot of these guys were 5-stars. So in our mind, automatically, you're going to think like, well, there's no way he could be better than this guy. This guy was the shit coming out of high school. He's a 5-star, this and that. But the reality of the situation is, man, I don't know. The production. I think the linebacker production favors Florida. Safety production favors Florida. The production getting after the quarterback favors Florida, even with 9.5 sacks gone. Like, you feel like there's more explosive guys that could give you some stuff there on Florida side. Or maybe there's probably more guys that can do some stuff just because of the depth that I talked about with Georgia. But if you want to give that to Georgia, all right, it's cool with me. But I think it could be a push if you factor in production and stuff. And we're just talking about the working roster. So that's me. You guys decide right there in the comment section. Let me know. Let's go to offense. Let's save quarterback for last. All right. Okay. We'll start with the offensive line, and I'm going to say straight up right now, I'm going to give that to I don't know. See, this is a point of contention with me, right? With Georgia, right, people are going to talk about, oh, this guy is a 5-star. A lot of these guys on Georgia's lines were 5-stars. A guy like Jamari Sawyer is a 5-star. A guy like, who else? Clay Webb was a 5-star. Some of the guys that they have coming in that could potentially start right away were 5-stars. But is Jamari Sawyer some type of All-American? Was he some type of freshman All-American? No, he's none of that. He's played some. Even when he's played, to me, he hasn't been somebody where you be like, well, damn, he's a superstar. He doesn't look like that to me. For one, he's playing out of position at a right tackle, and he's probably better off playing a center. I think he will be a superstar center. But, of course, you have Trey Hill there. Now, Trey Hill has a ton of experience now, being a year and a half starter or something like that. But to me, Trey Hill was a little iffy. He was the worst returning lineman to me that they would have had, and they lost 4/5 of a starting line. Can you elaborate on that? They lost 4/5 of a starting line. You lost 2 first-round draft picks. You lost the next best Georgia lineman to me, which was Cade Mays. And then you lost a very solid, 2 or 3 year starter in Solomon Kinley at the left guard. That's 4/5 of your lines. And then the one you brought back to me was probably the worst of them all, Trey Hill. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about with the Georgia offense. Everybody's making light of losing 4 starters, or they could just be replaced. I agree. You got to kick Sawyer out to tackle. That sounds like trouble. And you mix all that with a new quarterback, new offensive coordinator who's bringing in a new scheme. Oh, man, that seems like trouble right there. That's not a good mix right there. I'm very worried about how the offense will perform this year. I'm not going to base it off of playing Baylor in the Sugar Bowl.
Well, you can't even base it off of playing Baylor because that was a different scheme. That was James Coley's scheme with Jake Fromm at quarterback. Even though you did, you know what I'm saying, you still had Cade Mays there playing on the offensive line. So even he's gone. I believe Kinley played in that game too as well.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have any tackles they could possibly kick out instead of.
No, I mean you would have to
perhaps Sawyer out there.
Sawyer, I believe you do. Obviously, you got the guys like you got your 5-star cat coming in. What's his name?
Roderick Thomas.
Yeah, Brad Jones.
Yeah, Brad Jones.
Yeah, you got Brad Jones coming in. You had some other tackle types, right? But then you would be talking about playing. Yeah, there you go. Then you will be talking about playing 2 true freshmen. You know what Florida's doing? Now, while these guys for Florida weren't that good, in my opinion, now they're experienced. You're still going to have Gene DeLance and Stone Forsythe coming back, and these guys are either redshirt juniors or seniors. And they have a whole year of starting experience now. They could be better in their second year. You know what I mean? You're going to have all of their offense. You're going to have 4/5 of their offensive line returning. You lost the center in Nick Buchanan, but the rest of the guys coming back. You know what I'm saying? How do you weigh that with experience versus inexperience?
Yeah, experience would be good, but they weren't good though.
They weren't. No, they weren't good. I'll give you that. They weren't good, but they had some of these guys who I thought were better than people would give them credit for. First and foremost, towards the end of the season, they started playing this cat Richard Garage. I think he came in and kind of solidified a little bit of stuff. He can play all over. He could be a tackle if necessary. He's settled in at a guard spot. And then they got this cat, Brett Hagee. He played a ton of ball, was able to move around when one of the guys ended up, I think he ended up transferring during the season or something like that. He got some play. I thought he was pretty good. To me, the interior portion of the line was a lot better than the exterior portion of the line. Stone Forsythe and Gene DeLance, I thought, were problems. But now they all have a year of starting experience. Remember, they had to replace a lot of guys from the previous year. So could this be their year with the starting experience to be better? They don't have to be perfect. They just need to be better.
Yeah, that's all Florida's missing. That offensive line plays better than they did last year, than that offense take off. That's what's holding that offense back. And they were pretty good last year.
That's what I was trying to tell you. They outproduced Georgia on offense. At least if we're talking about throwing the football or whatever like that, I would think that Georgia probably have a better run game. That's what they need to be, right? They need to be better at running the ball. Georgia's better at running the ball, but if you were to actually look at what Georgia did rushing the ball last year, you would say that it was a disappointment. And that's with 4/5. That's with 2 first-round draft picks, and then two other guys who were super experienced, or one was super experienced and one was super talented, who you thought could be the next guy. So you lose 4 of those guys. Suppose Georgia ends up being more like what Florida was last year on the offensive line.
And that's trouble. And that's serious trouble right there.
Yep. All right, so let's go to the receivers and then the targets at receiver, like a tight end. So tight end and receivers, go ahead.
Tight end, Florida, goddamn.
No, don't try to cop. Stop trying to cop and plead, man. Just keep going with your stuff. Just go with your stuff, man.
Now, Pickens coming back.
All right,
Pickens. I don't know how.
All right, I'm gonna stop you right there. I would say that Pickens has a chance to be the best between both teams.
Oh yeah, Pickens special. A guy who didn't produce much, but I think he would benefit more than any player on Georgia with the change of offense, Demetrius Robertson. With that spread, quick game in space, I think he should benefit more than anybody on Georgia with the change of offense.
I forgot about him, but, man, it's hard to say what he's going to be. So now he's been in Georgia 2 years and ain't done shit.
Yeah. Hopefully Dominique Blaylock can come back off of the injury.
Oh, he's good. He's damn good.
We have, after that, it's a lot of unknown. Matt Landers. I don't know about that.
Matt No-Handers. I'm sorry. I can't give you Matt No-Handers, bro. He looks the part, 6'5" dude, can run and shit like that. But, man, he let me down big time last year. I had high hopes for that dude. I'm like, man, he's about to kill the game. He was horrifically bad.
Yeah, they got Tommy Bush. We don't know about.
I don't know nothing about him. He looked good. Season. He looked good in high school, and he looks good getting out the bus. But maybe he shows up. So if you're talking about a working roster with guys that you can count on because of what they did before, you just name a whole bunch of guys like Demetrius Robertson. You can't count on him. He sounds good, was a 5-star, one of the most electrifying athletes I've ever seen in a football setting up close and in track and field. I've seen him in both settings up close, electrifying as hell, but hadn't done shit since he left California. Tommy Bush hadn't done anything, whether it be through injuries or lack of understanding of the playbook or whatever like that. Matt No-Handers looks good, getting out the bus, ain't done shit. Only one who's done shit is George Pickens, and Dominic Blaylock had a little bit of production himself and looked like he could be the part in the slot, but he's coming off an injury, so you're going to have to name a whole bunch of freshmen. Curious Jackson, what about him?
Curious Jackson, he's pretty good. Yeah, he slipped my mind. Pretty good. Hands could be a little bit better.
See, he's one of these guys too. I'm like, the thought of what he can do to me is better than what he's actually done. Like, he looks fast. He looks like you can give him jet sweeps and stuff like that. Florida has a guy like that as well. All right, so
Florida lost way too much.
I see. Florida lost way too much, but I think this may still be the strength of the team because they also played a ton of people. It's just what they do. They played a ton of people and were prepared for this. So they lost a ton of very productive guys. They had the better wide receiver core than Georgia, and it wasn't even close last year to me. This year, Trayvon Grimes has a chance. If George Pickens is the best, at one particular point in time, Trayvon Grimes was as good as what we thought George Pickens was in high school. He was the 5-star cat. He was the cat that everybody wanted. Went to Ohio State, injured his knee as a senior in high school, transferred, and he's been with a whole bunch of guys. But even with that being said, if we come back from his production being probably the 4th or 5th guy, you could say he may have been the 4th or 5th guy when you factor in the tight end. He had 33 receptions for 491 yards. He's almost at 500 yards. These guys spread the ball out. The leading receiver was 657 yards, Van Jefferson. But they had 649 from the tight end, 517 from Freddie Swain, 491 from Grimes, 351 from Cleveland. Like, they spread the ball. That's what they do. They're not going to have one guy go for like 1,700 yards. They'll just have a whole bunch of guys go for a decent amount of yards, so it makes them harder to defend. But Trayvon Grimes, 6'5", and he can run. He faster than George Pickens. Hey, he gets down that field, man. 14.9 yard average. If you say that George Pickens is the best, I would say Trayvon Grimes has a chance to be the second best. Then the third best, I think, between both teams would be Jacob Copeland I think Jacob Copeland's about to take a huge step, and he's going to be what Van Jefferson was for them last year. Obviously, he was playing behind Van Jefferson. This will be, his third year on campus now. He had 21 receptions for 273 yards last year, a couple of touchdowns. Jumping Jake is what I call him. The guy can fly. He very much reminds me of Jamar Chase. Him and Jamar Chase have very similar games there. But then beyond that, you got a guy that everybody always talks about. If he can stay healthy, Kadarius Toney. Feels like he's been on campus forever. He's a running back like wide receiver cat. You see him with the long touchdown in the Miami game to start the season. Then he got injured or something like that. But we know what Kadarius Toney can do. But then what ties it all together is you got the best tight end in the entire country, and he's a receiver. That's what he is. He had 54 receptions for 649 yards, 5 touchdowns at the tight end position. Kyle Pitts. Pitts could, depend on what's going on, maybe he goes for 1,000 yards this year. He's good enough to.
Yeah, I knew about Pitts, but until I saw your videos on Copeland and Grimes, I didn't know Florida had those type of athletes outside. You know, I know about Pitts, but I didn't know they had those type of athletes on the outside.
That's because they have Swain, Hammond, and Jefferson already on tow, and Tyree Cleveland. So they have 4 guys who are all seniors. It's hard for those guys to get, but they still made it. Think about it. With those guys in the tow, my man still had 491 yards. Is there anybody that had 491 yards on Georgia? I know Pickens had more than that. You had more than that in one game, damn near. So, Demetrius Robertson was the next closest guy. He had 333 yards.
He's the key. He's going to have to step up this year. Everything fits him. That's the guy right there. You can't depend on all those freshmen. It took Pickens almost to the end of the season to really come on, so you need a guy like Demetrius Robertson to step up.
Blaylock had 310 yards. Kyrus Jackson had 79 yards. Total. I hate to break it to you, homie. The better throw game from a target standpoint is Florida.
How is Florida this close to Georgia when Georgia's been recruiting top 5 every year?
Bro, it's called player development. I love Trey Blunt in high school. What the fuck does that mean? Trey Blunt had not done shit. Nothing. Tommy Bush hadn't done nothing. I haven't seen much from a John Fitzpatrick. These are guys that I was sent to cover while they're in high school, right? They had guys in front of them. Matt Landers wasn't developed. Did Tyler Simmons look that good to you when he was there? He wasn't developed.
Not at all.
You had to go and get a guy like Lawrence Cager, who, for what it's worth, he was productive before he was hurt. 476 yards, 33 receptions. But you had to go from the outside and get somebody like that. To me, where Trey Blunt should have been that. Tommy Bush should have been. Matt Landers should have been that. You didn't have to go and get a guy like that. You didn't have the development, so you had to go and get those guys. Florida just has their guys all developed, and now you got 3 or 4 guys looking to step up that were productive already. You had to go and get Demetrius Robertson from another team. All right, running backs. This one is Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
However, I will say this. You lost a lot of production. So we're definitely – the running back is one of those things where it's hard for people to get by name value as well. Now, LaMichael Piron gone. So this steps up depth chart 1. So let's go. Dameon Pierce versus Zamir White. So tell me, with Zamir White as the third back, how many yards did Zamir White have? Yes.
I say less than 500.
Yeah. He had 78 attempts for 408 yards, 3 touchdowns. Your boy Dameon Pierce had 54 attempts for 305 yards, 4 touchdowns, a 5.6 average, and Zamir White had a 5.2 average. Remember, Florida's not the running team.
Yeah. Kenny McIntosh,
I love that kid.
they Yeah. That's what I like. He was more impressive than Zamir White. Like,
He was, but even with that being said, he had 174 total yards, couple of touchdowns. He averaged 7 yards. James Cook had 31 attempts for 188 yards, 6.1 average, and they were using him to throw him the ball a little bit more. He had, from a receiving standpoint, James Cook had 16 receptions for 132 yards.
After that, depending on true freshmen to come in.
You are. So what they did was, right, we can't use this because we don't know how he'll be, but they did go out and get themselves a 5-star. They're having trouble developing running backs, in my opinion, over there. Malik Davis is not what I thought he was going to be. Maybe he comes back, but he had a terrible year. He only had 34 attempts for 86 yards. What they do have, though, is a quarterback they come in and have to run the ball, and Emory Jones. He had 42 attempts for 256 yards and 4 touchdowns. That has to factor in because they literally bring him in to run the ball, which they probably have to just because of the run game situation. But they went out and got Lorenzo Lingard from Miami, 5-star cat. And he's one of the biggest, fastest cats that I've seen. He's very reminiscent of a Ty Gurley to me. If he is indeed that and that line can get better, I think we can see something special from this kid. And, of course, Kadarius Toney on the jet sweeps and stuff, too. Remember, they do a lot of sweep stuff. Just a different style of offense. Kadarius Toney had 12 attempts for 59 yards, 4.9 average.
I give it to Florida. Offensive line and some running game. That offense.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they got a chance to be special.
They do.
But I think Georgia has the edge in the run game.
I'm going to give them the edge in the run game, too. I will give them the edge in the run game. So I'm going to give that to Georgia. All right, let's go. Quarterbacks.
Hey, Kyle Trask. I mean, he's the best returning quarterback in the SEC. And will he be that
from production?
The end of the year?
Yeah, he's the best from production.
He's the best. And Jamie Newman, I don't know. I don't know yet. JT Daniels, I don't know yet. I mean, the potential is there with Jamie Newman.
The potential is probably through the roof, especially if we're talking about hype. But a lot of these people are playing catch-up. These people didn't give a fuck about Jamie Newman when he was playing on Wake Forest. They didn't start caring about him until they heard that he was going to Georgia. So then they played catch-up and try to go back. And what is this people saying? What is this that? Your boy over here covers the ACC, watches the ACC religiously. Jamie Newman was good against bad teams. Like, I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. People always get if you do something like that. I'm just being real about the situation here. If you really watch this guy against the better teams that they played, people going to be like, oh, he had no help or something like that. He had plenty of help at Wake Forest. And it's not like they're going against Ohio State every week. You know what I'm saying? So it was par for the course for what they had. But if you actually looked at his stats, a great deal of his production came against like FBS teams and FCS teams and really teams that you'd be like, oh damn, you know what I'm saying? Shit like that. Kyle Trask, we got to see him against LSU. We got to see him against Georgia. We got to see him against viable teams. When we saw Jamie Newman play against Clemson, he shitted the bed. He shitted the bed. Matter of fact, that over here, I wish I was screencasting this. Let me see right here. I don't know if people don't want. He had 26 touchdowns and 11 interceptions, right? And of course, when they like you, they'll try to say whatever. But he had a 60.9% completion percentage. But if you check this out right here, his games. Check this out. He played against Utah State. He had 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Rice, he had 312 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interception. Both those games he completed 77% and 72% of his passes. Then against UNC, who we know is a pretty decent team, right? Nothing all world, but definitely can give anybody a game, has some talent there. Then he goes for 214 yards, only completes 53% of his passes. This is the third game. 1 touchdown, 1 interception, right? So then they get to play Elon. So this is where the majority of his shit came against. Elon, 5 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns for Rice, 3 touchdowns for USU, for Utah State, right? So that's 11 of his touchdowns. 11 of his 26 touchdowns came there. And he only threw, He threw 2 interceptions to those teams right there. But the yardage as well. 351 yards against Elon, 312 against Rice. Utah State, 400 yards. Against BC, watched that game's pretty good. He had 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 243 yards. Against Louisville, 58% of his passes completed, 251 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Had a damn good game against NC State. We know what NC State was last year. 3 touchdowns, no interception. Then it gets a little dicey from there. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions from Virginia Tech. 45% completion percentage. Clemson, 42% of his passes completed, only 41 total yards. 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. You're going to see more defense. Like, Clemson wasn't an all-world defense last year either. It wasn't. We saw that against LSU. We saw that there. It just lost too much shit. It was a good defense, very good defense, but more of a defense like what you would see in your natural schedule here in the SEC. And then against Duke, 56 percentage, 284 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. Syracuse, I forget what happened in that game, but he had 0 touchdowns and 1 interception. Then he had a good bowl game, but he only completed 44% of his passes and 46% of his passes in his last 2 games. I don't know what to tell you. But he did have 574 yards on the ground. So if you're saying this, it's not a slam dunk that this guy will be good. You're going to say, all right, he's going to be better with Georgia players. Yes, he should be better with better talent surrounding him. But he will also be going against better defenses, better defensive coordinators, better defensive personnel. So that could kind of even itself out as well. So you can take that for what it's worth. You got JT Daniels as well. We know what he did at USC. Very talented player, 5-star cat. Didn't light the world on fire as a freshman, probably like 14 touchdowns, 11 interceptions or something like that. I forget exactly what, but he has a chance to be very good. Both these guys could be very good, but we just don't know. We do know what Kyle Trask did, and that was coming in not as a starter, not having reps with the number 1 guys, and then like building that rapport, having to do that during the season, coming in like the 3rd game or whatever it was against Kentucky when Felipe Franks got hurt. And he came up with 67% of his passes completed, 25 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, 2,900 yards.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with Kyle Trask.
And people don't want him to be the starter. They want Emory Jones to be the starter. So what are they working with at quarterback?
We went through that a couple of years ago. Florida
Exactly.
Smart, they'll stick with Trask.
Yeah.
I mean, other than Tua, he was going toe-to-toe with Joe Burrow.
Yes. He went toe-to-toe with Joe Burrow in that game. He did.
So
this is a guy now that he will have starters reps one previous season, but he will have off-season starters reps to where he gets to build a rapport with these guys. And he already had a pretty good rapport with Trayvon Grimes and Copeland because I guess from being in the second team. So now those guys get to go and be the first team together, and they've already had that rapport. I got to give the quarterback situation to Florida, man.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. And those type of athletes on the outside with Pitt, oh, boy. They get that offensive line together.
Yeah. Same thing with Georgia, though, man. That thing about Georgia is if everything comes together correctly, Georgia has a chance to beat everybody. And then with Ohio State not being in the mix and Oregon and shit like that, it gets even better. It's going to be a tough road to hoe facing Alabama right away and stuff like that. And, of course, facing Florida, same thing, back and forth there. Maybe some of these other teams are going to emerge. We weren't not thinking about like maybe a Tennessee or somebody. You just never know, right? These teams have some talent as well. But it's going to be maybe a tougher schedule than it would have been just playing the SEC teams and not necessarily getting that Elon-type teams and shit like that. So, I don't know, but we're going to leave it ultimately up to you guys to decide who has the better working roster between the two. We just went position by position there, and as you can see, some of the shit was clearly Florida, some of the shit was clearly Georgia, but nothing was really taken off on either direction. So you can see a very similarly talented working roster there. So any last thoughts, VT?
I didn't know Florida was that close. When Mullen took the job, I was like, okay, it'd probably be 2023 when Florida Gators challenge Georgia. I did not know they was as close as that. I know Florida's a good team, but I didn't know they was that close to Georgia. But I still think Georgia wins the East this year.
Hey, as well as you should, man. Georgia's your team, and Georgia's as good as anybody, so you should think that. There's for sure. I'm not sure about that. I think Florida could win the East. I think Georgia could win the East. I don't know. I don't know. I'm still not there yet. I feel like I still need to see more, but Florida could very well beat these boys. Don't think they can't. Yeah. People out there sleeping on Florida, your shit might go bad for you this year. For sure. But all right, VTW, man, I appreciate you. Oh, yeah, make sure you watch that Jalen Carter versus Gervin Dexter film study that I did right there. These are two guys who can factor into this into this working roster as well. Very talented cats. But both, as you see, had guys who are in front of them that are pretty good as well. So I appreciate you, VTW, man. Salute to you, Playboy.
All right, I appreciate the chance to be on. All
right, thanks, man. Keep soldiering on, homie. And to you guys out there, man, you know what time it is. Make sure you like. Make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend. It's your boy Murf, the Underground King, and I am out. Peace.